My ex-GF who cheated on me now wants me to help her get a new place of her own while paying for her to go back to school and the full cost of our daughter's daycare so she can work on herself. Obvious throwaway, I won't go into too much detail about what happened, but as the title says, I told her I started living with a family friend, processing everything while I try to pick up the pieces and start new. For a time we were trying to work things out for the sake of our child, but I found out she was still talking to other men while we were doing that and I just couldn't do it. She knows that I still care about her deeply, so she came to me and asked for everything I stated in the title. I'm doing pretty well financially, so what she's asking for is possible, but I just can't help but think I'm being played. I've considered it, but after talking to a couple of close friends, they said that I would be crazy for even considering doing any of that. They say just work hard and provide for your daughter as much as possible, and if she can't take care of her, then she needs to live with me instead. My daughter is 3 years old. I can't help but feel evil taking her away from her mom. She's a good mom, just hasn't been happy with her work as a customer service rep and wants more out of life, which I understand. I understand what my friends are telling me, but I can't help but feel incredibly guilty for not giving her what she's asking for. Story 2. I caught my mom, who I thought was an angel, having an affair on my dad. Now I can't stand her and see her for the sociopath she is. I grew up loving my mother very much, as most children do. She was protective and kind and beautiful and successful and intelligent, and she was someone I tried to be like when I was young. However, I haven't seen the side of her that is the core of her, and over the past 3 years I have come to despise her. She is selfish, manipulative, two-faced, and generally a mean person, which is a hard pill to swallow when I've adored her for 25 years. It's weird that you don't really know your parents until you grow up. It's going to be long, and if only one person can do it, it was worth writing. I just have to get rid of it. My parents are in their late 50s. My dad is a very good owner of his own business and a great guy, a great dad to me and my sisters, and a much better husband than my mom deserves. They've been together since they were in high school, when my mom literally pulled a girl out of her Jeep and into 2nd grade because she wanted to be with him. Red flag. He is rather passive, and my mother is obviously aggressive. He made all the honey lists given to him. Everything my mother wanted, she got. His brother and even I used to make fun of him because he was whipped like that. They went into over $90,000 in debt when I was 13 because my mom wanted a big house, a Mercedes, and other crap that they couldn't afford at the time. We took the expensive vacations she planned, we ate at nice restaurants we couldn't afford, and the only thing my dad could ever stand is that he took the boys hunting the stag 3 weekends a year, which my mother still did, complain about being left out. He has always had to be the center of everything he does in life, bar none, but that's why I didn't see it as it was. 4 years ago, my current wife and I were due to get married soon. My mom suggested we go on a motorcycle ride. My dad and I often ride together for a weekend with her old colleague, we'll call him James. He explained that he was having a hard time with his ex-wife and that he had to leave. We go there and have a great time for a weekend, but it was just weird. It was my mother, my father, my wife, and James. The dynamic and general atmosphere of being with my mother's old friend was strange. He was a pretty nice guy. He was tall, handsome, rich, and muscular. He had an ex-wife and 2 kids around my age, and he loved taking pictures of my mom and dad, which scared me. Anyway, nothing major happened during this trip, but my mother acts strange afterwards, and my father and older sister are the ones who noticed it. At the time, I was living across town with my fiancé, but my older sister was living with my parents because she was in college and recently divorced after a year of marriage, found out that he was a drug addict and spent all his money. One evening, a few weeks into our motorcycle trip, my fiancé, my sister, my mother, and I went to an Incubus concert. My mom acted weird, wanted to smoke weed, drink beer, not her style at all, and was just plain weird in general. It was as if she was suddenly a completely different person. After standing there for 10 minutes, she said, "I'm going to get a beer," got up and disappeared for an hour. I went looking for her after she had been gone for 45 minutes as I was concerned for her safety, and when I returned with no luck, I asked my sister if she was able to reach her. She rolls her eyes and says, "I didn't bother calling, she's probably calling James." WTF? She drops an explosive news story and tells me that she and her father suspect she is having an affair with him. She goes on to explain how vague she's been acting, doing things like changing the password on her phone and iPad, going out for phone calls and whispering, and even putting a jar of rocks on her phone while she was sleeping to wake him up. Her when she slept. Someone touched it, I guess. I don't know, ducking weird. My dad managed to check her phone before she changed her password and quickly scanned her texts with James and saw some strangely cryptic dialogue. My mom finally contacted us at the gig, and at this point I'm pissed and devastated at the same time. I ask her what was taking so long. She didn't even have that beer to take, and she says, "Oh, I met some old friends from my old job at Feel BLLS it right away. What are the chances his 50 plus friends also went to Incubus?" So I ask who. He didn't expect this follow-up question, but slyly replies with, "You don't know them." Then I ask, "Well, what are their names?" She feels the pressure and stutters before coming up with some shitty names. My wife and sister listen very carefully to my interrogation as Brandon Boyd kills him in the background singing "Excuse Me." I get fed up with his BS and drop it. I am furious and broken and thinking about my father. My sister was already to the point where I was disgusted, so she didn't say anything and we kind of ignored her until the next day. After this gig incident, my sister tells my dad what happened and he ends up discussing everything with my mom. He demanded to see his call history and a 45-minute call to James at the time of the gig, along with many others. He demands to know WTF is going on, and she says he is going through a tough time with his ex who seems weakened by alcoholism and she was just a friend to help him out. Anyway, to keep all readers interested, I'm going to skip the crap that might make this the longest read ever. Basically, the sketch lasts for months, and by the time I got married, my dad had a tracker in his goddamn car, was asking for call logs from the phone company, and was trying to hire a private investigator. I still remember dancing with her at my wedding. She looked adoringly at me and I couldn't look back. Little did my father or I know, me and my love for my kayak would soon give him everything he needed. About a month after my wedding, I'm staying with my old college roommate for a weekend of kayaking and fishing. He lived in my grandparents' my mom's parents' lake house, and I was supposed to pick up my kayak from their house that day. My dad randomly calls me to say hello and probably to tell me about the vague BS my mom had been up to, although he's probably not sane. He's my best friend, and these have been our summons lately. I tell him I'm on my way to the lake house and he replies, "I doubt she's that brave, but your mom said she was at the lake house with her friends this weekend and I want you too. Prepared when you are not." Not the case. If not, let me know. I knew what he meant. I didn't tell my mom I was coming here on purpose, and when I pull up I'm relieved to see only her car and another girly looking car in the driveway. I call my dad before I go in and tell him my first guess is that from what I see there is nothing unusual. It looks like she and her friends are here. He is as relieved as I am. I go up the stairs, knock on the door and it's silent. The back door to the terrace is not locked, so I go inside. The first thing I see is a leather biker jacket hanging from one of the bar stools and I immediately recognize it as James's. My heart starts pounding and my adrenaline is pumping as my vision gets weird and my ears start burning. In a second, a million questions went through my head, like am I here? Do they know I'm here? Should I announce myself? Damn mom, you're diving cheating. I react quickly, assuming they aren't there but could stop at any moment. I take a picture of the jacket, go to the garage and of course James' bike is there. I take a picture of it, then come back and see stacked cell phones being charged in the kitchen. I take a phone that I do not recognize. There was no lock, so go straight to the pictures. The first is from two people I don't recognize, other than my mother and James, and they kiss on the lips. I scroll through a bit and more of the same stuff. My heart is pumping out of my chest right now and I snap a few quick pics into my phone and run out of the house, not even remembering or caring what I was there originally. Something I should add here, when I was 7, my mom left my dad for a doctor, who just wanted to use it as a bad habit and quit, and my dad reluctantly took it back after she begged and pleaded. At that moment he blamed the doctor, saying he drug raped her or something. My dad later told me he thought he was doing it for the kids and was planning to leave them after we graduated high school, but between then and our college they did so well that he finally forgave her and was happy with their relationship. I remember when they broke up, but didn't know the details until recently. Okay, anyway, I pull out of the lake house driveway and onto a secluded road nearby, trying to figure out what to do. I slowed my heart rate a bit so I could think more clearly, then called my little sister to decide if I should tell my dad and if so how. Until now, everyone just had their suspicions with no hard evidence. My little sister, the darling of the family, agrees that I should call dad and tell him right away because she deserves to know no matter how much she hurts him. I then called my wife and she agreed, but we were both worried about what she was going to do. I hesitate for a moment, But finally I call my father to tell him that his wife of 25 years has been cheating on him. When he replies, I just blurt out, James is here, I have proof, and mommy is cheating on you. I didn't know how to put it subtly, so I just told him the facts. He was shocked just like me. He kept repeating the same line over and over, don't get low, damn it, insert my mother's name, damn it, wow. Motherfucker, damn it. After the initial scare passes, he apologizes because it was supposed to be me to see him, and then he says he's on his way. It's a 3-hour drive and will meet me at my roommate's. I immediately call my uncle, my father's identical twin, and my other best friend and tell him what's going on. I tell him I'm afraid my father will do something stupid. He said he would make sure not to. They end up coming together and meeting me at my roommate's house. We'll talk for a few hours and come up with a plan. They swap trucks with my roommate to go incognito because he needs to see for himself. My dad promises he won't do anything stupid, despite what he might see. He sneaks there after dark, parks in the distance, and walks a mile through the woods with his brother and a pair of binoculars. He hides behind trees when he is up and sees her on the terrace with another couple drinking wine. They cuddle and kiss like they're an old married couple and find what they're doing isn't over the top. It took my dad every ounce of self-control not to run in there and go crazy. Instead, he luckily did the smart thing and just took pictures of them and left. The next morning, he emptied his bank account, texted her the photos he and I had taken, saying, I know everything, I'm leaving you. I can only imagine his reaction. I'm sure the rest of their little trip was stressful enough. The following year was a nightmare for everyone, and my mother's reaction only strengthened my contempt for her. She dragged all of her into her shit about her and made our lives hell. My father and I caught her in the act. She just wanted her to go to James and let him live in peace, but she left James instead and begged my father to take her back. My father agreed to pay her alimony if she divorced him without lawyers, which would have drained them both financially. Reluctantly he agreed. After the divorce, my mother cried every day for a year. She moved with my little sister into an apartment she couldn't afford. She took antidepressants and went into a downward spiral that because we loved her no matter what, she took us all. All the lies she had been telling for a year started to come to light. When I think back to that motorcycle trip where I spent a weekend with that asshole, my stomach turns. I even bought that rich asshole a whiskey and a Coke. Even though I despised who she was and what she had done, I was still deeply worried about my mother and heard her sobbing on the phone and in front of me. She cried a lot for my wife, which I hated. It was my wife's first year in the family, and my mom called her and yelled at how cruel my dad was to her. My mom blamed my dad's twin brother for almost everything, saying he stole it from her during all of our boy hunts and that he was the reason their marriage fell apart. It was really manic. My mother's parents and brother were disgusted with her because they loved my father so much and refused to tell him about it, so my wife, sisters, father and I were the ones to bear the brunt of it. She tried to manipulate everyone into believing that she was the victim here. She made me sick. She tried to make it look like she was the abused wife and that my father had treated her badly. We all knew the truth, and I found myself despising her more and more as a person. My father, on the other hand, went all out with her newfound freedom. He's a nice guy with money, and while my mother's reaction has taken its toll in every way, he's distracted himself by shouldering and pecking at a group of 30-40-year-old women, hunting every weekend, and during the week he rode around on a Harley to get away from it all. My mother still doesn't know about women, and honestly, after being with the same woman for 30 years, being cheated on twice and controlling every aspect of her life, he deserved it and needed it out of her system. However, to bring us more into the present, my wife and I became pregnant with our first child, and the joy of it was completely overshadowed by my mother's constant breakdowns. I couldn't even put them in the same room to tell my whole family that they were having a new niece-granddaughter. For 10 months she relentlessly berated my father for not being able to forgive him and used my unborn child, her first grandchild, as collateral to get him back. She told him it would be his fault if his grandson was raised by divorced grandparents. It made my blood boil. After a while, and against encouragement from my sister and me to keep my dad strong, my dad gave in and slowly started to get back together with her. They sold their house and now live together in a terraced house. My daughter is now 17 months old, and my parents have relapsed in their relationship, in which my mother dominates her life, although this time he tried to establish strict ground rules. It was like a villain regaining his power after losing it. She went from being weak and broken to manipulating everyone to her will like she always did. My wife is shy, caring and always worried about offending my family in any way, and my mom takes the opportunity to try and direct her when it comes to our daughter until I intervene. She keeps playing the blame card on how my wife's parents view our daughter more when they live 4 hours away. Yes you duck, they are good people. When I talk to my mother now, there's never love in my voice. I don't want to hate her, but her flaws are so obvious. She's a sociopath that everyone needs to check out. We all love her despite that, but I'm the only one who calls her out on her bullshit. My older sister of hers hardly talks to her. My daughter is obsessed with her, and it makes me happy and furious at the same time. She doesn't deserve my father, and she doesn't deserve our forgiveness, especially since it is now twice as far as we know that she has cheated on my father. I don't know how to end this. I just wish my mom wasn't such a bastard. I think I'm grateful for these events, and my realization didn't happen sooner, otherwise I wouldn't know there were good women, and instead I'd probably have a hard time trusting them. If you've made it this far, thanks for reading. Edit. Just want to thank you guys. I read through most the comments and messages that ranged from "this is fake" to "your mom is A" to something sincere and relatable. I tried to write it in a way that wouldn't bore people to death. I know everyone says this, but I wrote this expecting no more than a handful of people to read it at most. Sorry it was so long. I did not expect it to be on the front page. Thanks for letting me vent and for responding with your own stories and thoughts on it. Felt good to get it off my chest. Y'all are awesome. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, why didn't he just keep binging the younger chicks and hang out with his friends? Op answer, because he's such a family man that he hated the thought of seeing my daughter any less, because he'd have to split time with my mom and my in-laws. And because my mom has a power over him. Redditor 2, Op, sorry to hear your situation. Your dad is a completely dumbass for taking her back. Given your situation, you owe it to your wife and your kid to come up with, and stick to, a strategy for dealing with your parents and keeping them at arm's length. It's going to be doubly difficult if your dad takes mom back and they have this drama and tension going forward. Realize that now that you're married with a kid, they are your primary family. It may be hard, but you must now put them ahead of your own family, or your mom is going to end up tearing apart your relationship as well. Come up with your strategy now with your wife, and focus on that. Op answer, I could never distance myself from my dad. He's my best friend and the best man I know, and a wonderful grandpa. Redditor 3, I read the complete post and truly felt your pain and anguish. Clearly, your mother did not deserve to be in a close-knit family, like yours. Neither she could appreciate that. But your father is a mature, handsome and successful man. I don't think he is being manipulated by your mother, especially when he has such a strong support system of his brother and you. He is an adult and you should make peace with his choice. May you find peace. Redditor 4, don't let her see your daughter. Redditor follow-up, I know this isn't the most noble idea, but maybe just tell your dad you're going to stop coming around with your daughter as much, because she doesn't need to be around such negativity. Maybe he needs to realize that in the bigger picture, separating from your mom is the healthiest option for everyone. As a family man, that might give him the push he needs. Redditor 5, stay out of your parents' relationship. They are adults and you have your own wife and kid. You've made your father a saint and your mother a W.R. Set a firm line that they are to be grandparents' parents, and you want to hear nothing about their marriage. There are professional counselors for that asset. Redditor follow-up, this. It seems strange to me that Op keeps talking about his mother dragging the family into their split when their father pulled them into the split first. If he suspected his wife of cheating on him, he should have caught them himself and not sent his son on some reconnaissance mission. The father seems much more manipulative than the mother in this scenario. And it's also weird that her mom cheated twice, and no one seems to have asked why she cheated. What Op describes as domination might be that her parents have a more mother-to-child relationship, and it's hard to be attracted to someone who needs clues. I'm not saying that her mother is a great example of marriage, I'm just saying that there are rarely villains and heroes in everyday stories. Redditor 6, I caught my mom cheating on my dad twice, and the second time I had proof. I caused the family problem because I told the truth. This story is so similar to my family. I feel for you. I'm sorry you all had to go through this. It's really sad. Life will go on. You do what's healthiest and best for you and your family, and that is all you can do.